Alright, so I was sitting around, being the goat of FGO I am, when I had a Jimmy Neutron Brain Blast, and I realized that one of the best servants we could probably get from Samurai Remnant, if you can separate yourself away from some of the different wifey servants we have, and, you know, Saber being the absolute goat, if you can separate from all of that, would probably be Tamamo Arya, and let me explain, alright? So Tamamo Arya in the game Fate Samurai Remnant, spoiler alert, is strictly a support type servant, meaning if we get this unit in FGO, they gotta be a busted support because this character literally has no capacity for attacking in the game. So they would have to be a dummy nutty good support because the track record for Tamamo units is pretty good. Now, some of you guys might say, well, look, just because she doesn't have attacking animations in game doesn't mean she has to be a support. But look, if we're going to try to stay faithful to the original adaptation for, you know, Samurai Remnant, then they're going to make this lady a nice support. And before you say, well, look, ZTL, most of the Tamamo units that we have are offensive servants. I mean, you have Koyan Dark, who's a Buster Looper. You have the Tamalancer, who is a single target anti-mail DPS. And you have Tamacat, who is kind of a quick looping servant, I guess, if you really try hard enough. But look, I know that 3 of the 5 not Koyan Skies, but Tamamos that we have, right? And technically, Koyan Sky is not a Tamamo. Technically, if you've read up the lore, she's... I don't know, I'll let you guys discuss that. The lore heads in the comments down below can get to the bottom of that one, of her being a actual Tamamo servant, or if she's a fake Tamamo servant, because she's definitely a very interesting character, let's just say that. But look, take that aside, and we realize that she really just can't be an offensive servant. Obviously, she'll have, you know, face card animation. She has to be able to do some damage, but I'm expecting her to be a support because that's pretty much all you use her for in-game. You use her for these, like, dummy nutty good buffs that you can buff Iori with, and I'm assuming that's why they're going to make her a buff-type servant, right? Now, they could go the route of making her bad and making her a debuffer, which I would really not like. I'd prefer they don't do that because debuff exclusive servants generally don't do very good in FGO. The problem is that most of the game is farming, so you want to give buffs to people. Like, you want to be the support that's giving buffs that they can use for all 3 turns, or you want, or you want to be like the actual looping person themselves, right? Like, you either want to be the person doing that as a support, or you got to be the looper yourself. If you're not either one of those, you're not going to get used that often, unless you're like a cracked single target servant, right? But debuffers generally don't work out very well because they only apply to one wave. Now, obviously, you can bring them for more CQ boss style content, but instead of doing that, you could just bring a bunch of really strong supports that give you 3-turn buffs like Scotty, Castoria, Koyan Sky, who even lets you loop back your skills. You could bring them instead, and you could just have a much easier time. Now, one of the things that I'm like really hopeful for about Tamamo Arya, now, obviously, I'm hoping they make her a quick support type servant, right? Because of the Tamamos that we have, if you're including, you know, Koyan Sky in your Tamamo list, we have an art support and we have a buster support. So the one Tamamo we're lacking would be, funny enough, a quick support. And with some of the skills that the Tamamos have that they kind of share, at least the 2 support ones share among each other, they both reduce skill cooldown. Now, this Tamamo does it on NP, this one does it on, you know, her first skill, right? As many of you guys probably are very experienced using Koyan Sky at this point. I'm hoping they go along this route, because if they go the, like, original caster Tamamo route, I think she will get passed over by a lot of people. Because the original Tamamo is still very, very strong. You can bring her to different art setups for more difficult content, and you will get a lot of value out of her. I mean, the fact that she gives you fat NP damage when arts units can already really make use of, say, people like Oberon and Black Grail already, that's really good if you want to use her as, like, I don't know, a sub option for Castoria or something in some CQ style fight, right? And then you want to plug suit in Oberon to really take advantage of all this fat NP damage that you've got. But aside from that, you know, and just like the basics of giving people like a really big arts buff, the thing that people always acknowledge with Tamamo is that her NP is really, really strong, reducing the entire party skill cooldown by 1, giving a nice heal that, you know, Castoria doesn't offer you, and then also giving everybody a fat glob of NP, giving them a 1/4 of their NP back, is really insane, especially if you do it correctly and you put this at the end of an NP chain. The problem is that the way FGO plays and the way you want your supports to be built is you want to have access to these strong skills immediately. It's why Koyenskaya is so good because she allows you to have access to the skill cooldown, not only increasing it to 2 instead of 1 on the original Tamamo, but it's just on demand on a skill, right? You can use it at the beginning of your turn. The problem with giving these really strong NPs is that you really don't have access to them turn 1, right? Because by the time you're firing your NP, you can't do anything else with your servants, right? It doesn't matter if the support NP is like, I'm going to give you 50% of your NP back, because you've already wasted the first turn and you want to do everything in 3 turns, right? It's about as being as quick and efficient as possible, which is why I'm hoping that if they're going to do something along those lines for Tamamo Arya, like, I like the idea of her having some kind of skill cooldown reduction, because the other 2 Tamamo supports do have that. And I'm sure that, like these 2 who have big card buffs, right, whatever she ends up being, whether it's Buster, Arts, Quick, extra attack support, which actually don't do that. Don't do that, Lisangle. As much as I meme, I don't think that'll be very, very good. I think that would be kind of trash. If you want to go along these lines, I think you really could sell her. I can also see her being a 4-star servant, although I know this is probably cope on my part. I think she would be like the 4-star servant, but I don't think they'll make her a crack support if she is the 4-star. Then again, Chloe opened up a lot of different avenues for farming for Summer 8, and she's a 4-star servant, so maybe if we're lucky they would do that. But the rest that she would just, everything else she has to do is like really straightforward and simple. Why is Berserker open? All she has to do at that point is then just give NP, right? Which is, again, the problem with normal Tamamo over here, is that she just, even if, you know, she gave 50% here, like the other Koyenskaya Tamamo characters right over here, right? Even if she does, yeah, even if, sorry, I'm tripping over my own words. I'm trying to get my thoughts across. Even if she did give 50% right here, like Koyenskaya did, the fact that it's on the NP means it's not readily accessible, and it makes things a bit weird. And at the end of the day, if you're going to market a support type servant, they just gotta have all the strong skills available from the jump, right? It's why Castoria is so good, because her skills are already really good. Her NP being one of the best NPs in the game is the icing on the cake, right? You don't use her for the NP, you use her because her skills are really good. The NP is just a nice cherry on top. Same thing for someone like Merlin, right? Like, Merlin's skills are all really, really strong, and then he has the added bonus of having a really strong NP. So you have very powerful effects that you can use immediately. And then on top of that, for more long-term fights, you have this NP that's accessible. Even better for someone like Castoria, because she's viable in farming and in CQ style content, right? Because I'm sure everybody that's done arts farming before has pretty consistently got their Castoria to fire their NP like by wave 2 or 3, right? Because both of the Castorias give 60% to everybody, including themselves, that even if they have like a starting charge CE, you append skilled them because you like Castoria, or I don't know, you got some arch chains in there somewhere while you were farming with your arch team, go figure. It makes it even better for that, because then you get extra attack if you have lower NP levels. Now, I'm not asking for her to have a dummy nutty broken NP like Castoria that you can use for farming as well as CQ style content, but realistically, if this is going how I think it feels in my head, it feels like she could just be not like a quick Koyenskaya, but kind of like a quick Koyenskaya. Because funny enough, like Tama Lancer and then like Tama Cat over here, you'll notice they don't do the skill cooldown thing, which is very strange, despite them also being, you know, Tamamo servants. They just, for whatever reason, didn't get that gimmick. I don't believe Koyen Dark has it either. Let me just double check before I look like an actual big dummy. Okay, yeah, see, she doesn't even do it either. So it's like, the offensive Tamamos don't get the skill cooldown gimmick, whereas like the support ones do, right? And this is like a year 1 servant. This is a year, what, 5 servant? And then they still kind of have that gimmick going for the support Tamamo. So the fact that she is pretty much strictly relegated to being a support type servant in the game, they don't allow you to attack offensively with her at all, leads me to believe that they really would go all in on her being a support. And the one support we really need right now, say it with me, is Quick, right? Caster Scotty and Ruler Scotty have broken their backs trying to carry the Quick meta, and they're starting to look a little tired, right? Because the arts and Buster servants we're starting to just keep getting better and better, right? And those two are standing the test of time. I mean, we just got Melusine. We did not need another broken arts looping servant. We already had Ibuki. Frankly, before Ibuki, we already had Space Ishtar. We already had Summer Kama. They're just absolutely feeding those metas. Like, they're just getting buff after buff after buff. Something like this would be really nice. Now, unfortunately, I don't think we would see like Tamamo Arya coming out for quite a bit, right? Because if they did want to do that collab event, I know they've kind of talked about how they don't want to do an FGO collaboration event, but you know, Lysenko might be able to make something work out. They might be like, hey, if we do this collab event, we'll make a bunch of money, right? And then they might be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's go ahead and do that. And so if they do something like that, it would like earliest be early next year or something along those lines. And unfortunately, if they're not going to do a collab event, it's kind of hard to see when they would drop her, right? Like maybe if they did Saber, right, from Samurai Remnant as the 9th anniversary servant, they could throw Tamamo Arya on there as like a 3-4 star servant. Her being a 3-star and being this good, by the way, is massive cope. I'm thinking even 4 stars maybe cope, but hopefully, you know, maybe we'd get a little lucky and they'd throw us that bone. But aside from doing that, I really don't know what event they would throw her on, right? Unless they wanted to do like, I don't know. See, I was going to say something like related to Koyenskaya or like the Tamamo 9, but a lot of those stories are kind of resolved by this point in FGO, unless part 3 to like fully revolve around something along those lines. So I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I just had this kind of like epiphany. I originally wanted to talk about Ryder, you know, right here. I wanted to talk about her and like kind of giving her a unit. But then I kind of thought about it a little bit more and I was like, realistically, the unit I would be most excited to see would probably be Tamamo Arya, because it would be a really busted support type servant, or it really should be a busted support type servant. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know other servants from Samurai Remnant you would like to see. And if you have your own, you know, thoughts and ideas, you could drop those in the comments, in the comment section down below as well. You can also go into lore and stuff as well. This is kind of more of a light spoiler thing. So if you want to go into like her NP or some of her skills as well, we can also kind of talk about that. The only problem with Samurai Remnant is they really, as you can see, don't give us the personal skills. They only really give us the class skills in the game. As far as I've been able to see, being about 30 hours in, I still have not gotten access to any of the servants' personal skills, like, you know, which is like, so like for Tamamo, that'd be like her Fox's Wedding as opposed to like territory creation, right? They didn't give us any of these. As far as I can tell that Saber has mana burst. That's about it. So I don't know, maybe we can get into some lore in the comments down below and we could maybe find out if they would steer her more in that support direction, or if for whatever reason they'd make her like a debuff unit, which would be absolutely cheeks, I'm not gonna lie. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.